2020 Novi Fire and Police Department Awards Ceremony. I'm David Malloy, and I have the high honor of serving you and all these men and women as the Director of Public Safety and Chief of Police for the City of Novi. Due to the global pandemic we find ourselves navigating, our ceremony will be formed virtually this year. The health and safety of all our men and women is our top priority, and we must do everything to keep them safe. One of the greatest honors I have is I'm allowed to serve alongside all the men and women present here virtually and those we will honor here tonight. It is truly one of the highest distinctions one could ever imagine. Tonight, we join together virtually to recognize several outstanding individuals who've performed valiantly and professionally in service to our Novi community. Firefighters and police officers take risks and suffer great inconvenience to protect lives, defend civil liberties, secure the safety of fellow citizens, and they endure such risks and tolerate such inconveniences on behalf of complete strangers and without one bit of hesitation. Our dispatchers and support staff work long hours and are responsible for the behind-the-scenes work so many take for granted. They are the unsung heroes many will never meet, but our work is not possible without them. These men and women we recognize this evening are the heroes who run towards the danger when everyone else is running away. Tonight we will honor their bravery and commend their service. I'm honored to serve a community which is fortunate to have two very professional public safety departments working together seamlessly to deliver emergency services to all residents and business leaders. We come together as one with common values of honesty, integrity, professionalism, honor, service, and duty. These are not just words, but the core values all members of the Novi Police and Fire Departments possess and emulate. You can follow along live this evening on Facebook and cityofnovi.org.
Good evening. Life-Saving Award, Sergeant Mark Booty, Officer Josh Johnson. On the evening of October 11, 2020, Sergeant Booty and Officer Johnson were dispatched to the Springs Apartments to help a resident who was suffering from unknown mental health crisis. The resident was threatening to end his life by jumping out the second-floor window. When officers arrived, he refused to open the door. Rather, he barricaded the door with two couches. Officers utilized their crisis intervention training to try to talk the resident out of his apartment. The resident claimed his life was ruined by the Novi Police Department because he had a warrant for his arrest. He did not trust officers and stated, and I quote, "I may as well kill myself." After several tense minutes, Sergeant Booty convinced the resident to exit his apartment. Suddenly, he pushed past officers and ran up to the third-floor landing. With no regard for his safety or the safety of our officers, he tried to jump off the third-floor landing. Without hesitation, Sergeant Booty placed himself in harm's way by grabbing the resident as he went over the railing. Sergeant Booty, now leaning over the railing, braced himself against the railing to prevent anyone from falling 3 floors to the ground. Officer Johnson quickly grabbed the resident. Officer Johnson and Sergeant Booty pulled him to safety. They were able to get him the mental health care so desperately needed. If not for the selfless act and quick actions by Sergeant Booty and Officer Johnson, this call may have had a much different outcome. For their heroic efforts, they are awarded the Life-Saving Award. Merit Citation, Assistant Fire Chief John Martin, Lieutenant Amanda Kulikowski, Emergency Manager Marshall Johnson. Initially reported to the World Health Organization on December 13, 2019, the COVID-19 outbreak was declared a global health emergency on January 30, 2020. Leading the way locally, on March 1, 2020, the Director of Public Safety announced the City of Novi COVID-19 Task Force to track incoming data, report on the outbreak as it grew across the region, and its impact on the City of Novi. On March 18th, Mayor Bob Gatt declared a state of emergency for the City of Novi. 3 experts were chosen to lead the task force: Police Lieutenant Amanda Kulikowski, Assistant Fire Chief John Martin, and Emergency Manager Marshall Johnson. They were handpicked for their experience in emergency management. Together, they met daily to discuss up-to-the-minute coronavirus developments, the status of the state of Michigan, Oakland County, and the City of Novi. Assistant Chief Martin was well ahead of many other Oakland County communities, recognizing the potential shortfall for personal protection equipment, or PPE. Assistant Chief Martin began requesting supplies through the Oakland County Homeland Security. Because of his alert attention to the pandemic, the City of Novi was stockpiling PPE supplies while so many other communities were scrambling to get theirs. Lieutenant Kulikowski published a daily COVID-19 briefing, outlining the developments surrounding the pandemic, along with a preparedness report with a daily count of PPE supplies available to city employees. These reports were shared each day with Novi's leadership group. The three of them coordinated efforts to ensure the safety of our teams, including partnering with the Wayne State University Medical School to provide COVID-19 and antibodies testing for all of our team members. They partnered with Oakland County Homeland Security to provide a COVID-19 testing site in the LMA Power Park. They obtained and tracked PPE supplies, building and vehicle disinfecting, creating operating procedures, and employee screening. Lieutenant Kulikowski prepared a COVID-19 training guide for city staff, and Marshal Johnson authored a citywide after-action report following the first wave of the pandemic, outlining lessons learned to improve the city's response for the upcoming year. For their efforts, the task force members are awarded the Merit Citation. Unit Citation: Detective Sergeant Kevin Gilmore, Sergeant Mark Booty, Detective Mike Bender, Detective Paige D'Angelo, Detective Sean Penzak, Detective Brandon Bittis, Officer Mike Daisley, Officer Akhtar Hossein, Officer Tim Hartland, Officer Samantha Grakow, Officer Baha Al-Mufti, Officer Jerry Webb, Officer Chris Clark, Captain Mark Tyson, Fire Protection Officer Andy Copeland, Fire Protection Officer Tim Porter, Fire Protection Officer Bashara Takla, Paramedic Kristen Thompson, Paramedic Jeffrey George, Paramedic Kelly Andersma, Paramedic Patrick Bush, Dispatcher London Hudspeth, Dispatcher Laura Shear, Dispatcher Charlie Jordan. January 30th, 2020 was no ordinary day in Novi. The Novi Communications Center had no idea the nature of the call they were about to receive at 5:23 in the afternoon. Dispatcher Jordan took the call from a resident who returned home to a parent's worst nightmare. The caller found his 1-year-old child and his wife, mother of the child, laying motionless on a bed. Dispatcher Jordan remained on the line with the husband while Dispatcher Shear immediately dispatched a second ambulance. There was a significant language barrier. Not having the names, Dispatcher Hudspeth scrambled to identify the names via a digital database. Officer Tim Hartland was the first officer entering the bedroom, where he found both victims lifeless on the bed. Fire Protection Officer Takla carried the 1-year-old child to a stretcher, where the child was treated by Captain Tyson, paramedics Thompson, and Andersma. Tragically, the child was pronounced dead at the scene. Fire Protection Officers Porter and Copeland, along with paramedics George and Bush, began treating the mother. Detectives Bender, D'Angelo, and Penzak launched an extensive investigation to learn what led to this tragic event. The investigation led to the child's mother being charged with 1 count of homicide felony murder, 1 count of homicide first-degree premeditated, and 1 count of child abuse in the first degree. She remains in the Oakland County Jail awaiting trial. Fortunately, the Novi Police and Fire Departments do not respond to these kind of horrific events very often. When we do, we come together as a team. In a professional manner, we act swiftly and efficiently to ensure immediate care, safety for all, and successful investigations. This team was led by Sergeant Mark Booty, Detective Sergeant Kevin Gilmore, and Captain Mark Tyson. They guided their teams as one unit, coping with the tragedy before them while maintaining the integrity of the investigation. The team knew they had to be the voice for the child. They knew they had to work together to tell the child's story. For their excellence in team service, they are awarded the Unit Citation. Unit Citation: Officer Matt Halashik, Officer Ryan Haney, Officer Jerry Webb, Officer Jacob Roberts. Captain Remo Oliverio, paid-on-call firefighter George Paterni, paid-on-call firefighter Jose Villanueva, paid-on-call firefighter Amir Farahani, paid-on-call firefighter Troy Rasikot. On January 6, 2020, a driver rear-ended a tow truck on eastbound 96 at Haggerty Road. Airbags deployed, and the driver was not responsive. When officers arrived, they found the passenger compartment collapse around the driver. Her legs were pinned under the steering wheel, and the car doors were crushed to the point where they would not open. Officer Haney was able to reach into the car and provide a sternum rub, startling the driver. Officer Roberts broke out the rear window, while Officer Halashik climbed in the car to stabilize the driver. Captain Oliverio and his team, paid-on-call firefighters Paterni, Villanueva, and Farahani, and Rassicot worked together with the jaws of life to free the driver. The driver did suffer a compound fracture and exposed bone on her right leg. Otherwise, she walked away from the accident due to the combined efforts of the Novi Police and Fire Departments. Once again, your Novi Police and Firefighters come together as a team for a successful outcome. For their team effort, they are awarded the Unit Citation. Unit Citation: Sergeant Bob Minar, Sergeant Dan Jenkinson, Detective Brandon Bittis, Officer Jacob Roberts, Officer John Corder, Officer Tim Shea, Dispatcher Sarah Fizell, Dispatcher Kelly Mesh, Dispatcher Margaret McFarlane Kane, Dispatcher Charlie Jordan, Dispatcher London Hudspeth. While our officers always go above and beyond in their duties, when a child is assaulted or threatened, our officers make an extra effort to ensure their safety. This is what happened on the evening of February 25th, 2020, when the Novi Police Department was dispatched to a felonious assault domestic violence complaint in the 41,000 block of Primrose Lane. Upon arrival, Officer Roberts and Officer Shea learned the suspect assaulted his wife and threatened to throw his 1-year-old grandchild against the wall. The suspect grabbed 2 semi-automatic rifles from the closet and a handgun from the bedside nightstand. The suspect told his wife he may as well shoot her and the grandchild. He attempted to chamber a round into the gun but was unsuccessful. He punched his wife a second time and left the home before police arrived. Novi dispatchers worked together tracking the suspect's cell phone. We quickly learned the suspect was staying at a local hotel. With 2 scenes now, the dispatchers worked together to coordinate our response at both locations. Sergeant Minar, Sergeant Jenkinson, along with Officer Roberts, Corder, and Shea, readied their ballistic gear and patrol rifles. Meanwhile, Detective Bittis located the suspect vehicle traveling along the roadway in front of the hotel. Together, officers successfully stopped the suspect at the intersection of 12 Mile and Novi Road, where he was taken into custody without further incident. Officers recovered 2 semi-automatic rifles from the car and additionally recovered 2,000 rounds of rifle ammunition from the hotel room. Officer Roberts had remained at the home where he recovered the handgun. The suspect's criminal record includes 2 prior convictions for domestic assault. For this incident, the 56-year-old Novi resident was found guilty on April 13, 2020, and served 24 days in jail and given 2 years of probation for possession of a short-barreled shotgun or rifle and third offense domestic assault. These officers worked together as a team and took a very violent criminal off the streets that day. Their efforts, in this case, validate our commitment to building public trust. For their team effort, they are awarded the Unit Citation. Letter of Commendation: Cadet John Reed. Cadet Reed was recognized last year for his loyalty and commitment to excellence. He is an example for all cadets to follow. In 2019, he was recognized for going above and beyond his cadet duties as he excelled as a cadet trainer, creating training manuals. He further took initiative and volunteered to help develop and test the digital booking process. Cadet Reed volunteered to create a step-by-step list for cleaning personnel and fellow cadets to ensure the booking area of the police department is properly attended to each day. This past year was no exception for Cadet Reed. Earlier in the year, our front desk clerk resigned. We need someone to step forward to fill the void. Those duties do not align with the police cadet job description. In true Novi spirit, Cadet Reed came forward and learned several new duties, including gun registration and crime stat reporting, all to maintain a smooth transition period, allowing our front desk operations to go uninterrupted. Cadet Reed continues to show his dedication to the organization, his position, and beyond. He is a valued member of our team. For his unwavering commitment, Cadet Reed is recognized with his second letter of commendation. Letter of Commendation: Officer Matt Halashik, Officer Jacob Roberts. As a resident, you have the right to privacy in your own home. At least that's what one Novi resident thought on January 11, 2020 at 2:30 in the morning. The female resident reported seeing an unknown male peering into her bathroom window. The resident was able to provide the officers with a suspect description and a description of the vehicle he was driving. Although not occupied, the vehicle was still in the complex. As officers looked for the suspect, he returned to his car and began to drive away. Officers stopped the car and identified the driver as a 41-year-old Livonia resident. The suspect was wearing the clothing described by the victim and his shoes were wet and covered with mud. While he first denied any wrongdoing, he eventually confessed to having a problem with peeping into windows. He further confessed to walking around the complex that night, peering into windows as residents were sleeping. The suspect pled guilty to disorderly person window peeping and was sentenced to 11 months of probation. This is another example of your Novi police officers committed to building public trust. These officers are recognized with a letter of commendation.
Good evening. Unit Citation: Sergeant Rachel Meyer, Sergeant Steve Snell, Detective Steve Baylog, Detective Jeff Brown, Detective John Zabik, Officer Samantha Grockow, Officer Deanna Stevenson, Officer Caitlin Courtney. Shots rang out on Ichabod Street the afternoon of July 11, 2020. 10 rounds were fired into a home during a drive-by shooting, resulting in one resident being shot. Officer Stevenson and Courtney were the first to respond. They immediately began to render first aid to the victim, who suffered a gunshot wound to her leg. Sergeant Meyer and Sergeant Snell coordinated the response as officers interviewed witnesses and processed the scene. The victim believed the shooter was a former roommate. Detective Baylog developed a suspect through interviews and put him near the shooting through historic cell phone records. Witnesses reported hearing gunshots and seeing a dark-colored sedan leaving the area. Additional interviews produced information that the suspect did have a dark sedan and that the suspect was recently trying to purchase a firearm. Further information indicated the suspect could not get a gun due to his current mental status. Detective Zabik located the suspect's cousin, who had recently purchased a 9mm pistol, but that pistol was now missing. Through investigative efforts, Detective Brown located the suspect living in Detroit. Just over 24 hours after the shooting, the suspect was arrested as he left his home, where Detective Zabik located the cousin's missing 9mm handgun in the suspect's car. The 21-year-old Detroit resident was charged with 2 counts of assault with intent murder, 4 counts possession of a firearm in the commission of a felony, discharge of firearm in or at a building causing injury, and discharge of firearm in or at a building. The suspect is currently lodged in the Oakland County Jail awaiting trial. This is an excellent example of going above and beyond with relentless follow-up, leading to a successful investigation with the shooter in custody in just over 24 hours. If it were not for their teamwork and an exhaustive investigation, the suspect would not have been located. This team is being recognized with a unit citation. Unit citation: Detective Mike Marchetti, Detective Sean Penzak, Officer Steve Finlayson. In the early morning hours of August 1st, 2020, a Novi family experienced a frightening moment when the homeowner was awakened by a flashlight in her face. The suspect had broken into their home while the family was sleeping. After scaring the homeowner, the suspect fled the home, stealing the victim's television, purse, and car. Officer Finlayson located the vehicle on Old Novi Road, where it began to flee. Officer Finlayson pursued the vehicle until terminating once the suspect vehicle left the city. The vehicle was later recovered in East Point, Michigan, where it was involved in a hit-and-run accident and the occupants fled on foot. Detective Penzak later developed a suspect after the victim's credit cards were used at 3 different locations in Detroit. The same suspect was being investigated for a stolen firearm out of St. Clair Shores, carrying a concealed weapon, identity theft, possession of a stolen financial transaction device, false ID out of Grosse Pointe Shores, and an ongoing investigation in Grosse Pointe Farms. The suspect, now under surveillance, could be linked back to a home in East Point, near where the victim's car was located. After executing a search warrant, detectives Marchetti and Penzak found property linking the suspect to the home invasion in Novi and other jurisdictions. The 17-year-old East Point resident was charged with home invasion, unlawful driving away a motor vehicle, breaking and entering, and stealing and retaining a financial transaction device. He is currently in the Oakland County Jail pending other charges and a trial date. Once again, excellent teamwork with relentless follow-up from your Novi police officers and investigators. They not only solved a violent crime in Novi, but also cleared up several cases in surrounding jurisdictions. They are being awarded a unit citation. Unit citation: Detective Jeff Brown, Detective Mike Marchetti, Detective Sean Penzak, Officer Tim Shea. On August 29th, 2020, Officer Shea responded to Tapper's Jewelry Store inside 12 Oaks Mall for an attempted armed robbery where the suspect tried to steal a $47,000 Rolex watch. The watch was recovered by employees as the suspect fled from the store. Officer Shea, who is known for his attention to detail in reviewing crime reports, recognized the suspect in this case was similar to the suspect description from a retail fraud at the Novi Target store 2 months prior. Officer Shea alerted Detectives Marchetti and Brown of his findings. Detective Brown followed investigative leads and obtained search warrants for the suspect's phone and home. While preparing to serve the search warrant at the suspect's home, Novi investigators learned the suspect just committed another robbery in Milford, Michigan. The information from the Novi robberies confirmed the Milford suspect was the same person. Investigators served a search warrant at the suspect's home, which resulted in additional evidence being recovered. The 48-year-old South Line resident was charged with attempted armed robbery and retail fraud out of Novi, armed robbery out of Milford, and an additional 2 counts of motor vehicle theft from surrounding jurisdictions. He is currently lodged in the Oakland County Jail awaiting trial. Our investigators believe in relentless follow-up and exhausting every lead, including leads from other jurisdictions with a connection to Novi. This is yet another example of excellent teamwork solving crime, not only in Novi, but surrounding areas. Each member will receive a unit citation. Letter of commendation, Officer Ryan Haney. During 2020, the Wildlife Woods Park suffered 9 separate incidents of someone damaging the grass and soil intentionally with their vehicle. In all, the damage totaled $8,500. With no suspect identified, police officers conducted regular extra patrols in the park. On December 12, 2020, at 11:40 p.m., Officer Haney conducted an extra patrol of the area and observed a white Jeep Wrangler leaving the park covered in mud. Officer Haney stopped the vehicle and identified the driver as a 17-year-old Novi resident. Officer Haney interviewed the suspect driver and was able to obtain a full confession from him in relation to him damaging the grass. The driver pled guilty to malicious destruction of property with a sentence pending. This is an excellent example of persistent follow-up on behalf of Officer Haney. He was aware of criminal activity in his patrol district and remained attentive to the area. Officer Haney's efforts brought an end to the destruction of city property. He's being recognized with a letter of commendation. Letter of commendation, Record Specialist Kim Clamola. During the month of October, the Novi Police Department sponsored the Pink Police Car campaign to collect monetary donations and raise community awareness for breast cancer. Record Specialist Kim Clamola volunteered her time and worked to have the car at various events throughout the city. She helped during nights and weekends to support the event, collected donations, and shared her personal story to inspire others. Kim spent several hours at each location, even joining during her lunch hour. She attended events at Paradise Park, Walmart, Ascension Providence Hospital, the Novi Civic Center, and Kroger. The feedback we received from these events was nothing but praise and positivity. Kim's volunteer spirit on her time off is an example to others. Virtually everyone has had a family member, friend, neighbor, or significant other impacted by this deadly disease. With her help and with all those involved, we were able to raise nearly $3,000 in donations. Donations that were given to the Ascension Providence's Believe in Miracles Fund, which assists cancer patients with medications, transportation, and treatment as they fight their battle with this horrible illness. This type of spirit is indicative of the mission, vision, and values we all strive for as members of the Novi Police and Fire Departments. We recognize Kim Clamola with a letter of commendation for her volunteer spirit.
Good evening. Life-Saving Award, naloxone. Sergeant Aaron Eggert, Officer Jason Berktold, Officer Stacy Simon, Officer Kyle Smith, Officer Andrew Toth, Officer Akhtar Hussein, Officer Jerry Webb, Officer Adam McGee, Fire Protection Officer Tim Porter, Paramedic Patrick Bush, Paramedic Jeff George, EMT Amir Farahani, Paramedic Jana Ya Marino, Paramedic Carl McKinney. In July of 2015, every member of the Novi Police and Fire Department trained in the use of naloxone, a life-saving antidote that reverses the effects of opiate heroin overdose. When administered properly, an overdose victim will become responsive within minutes and, in many cases, walk to the ambulance under their own power. Since Novi first responders began carrying naloxone in 2015, 97 lives have been saved, and in 2020, we responded to 13 opiate and heroin overdoses. That's a 46% decrease from 2019, and the lowest number of cases we've seen since we started carrying nasal naloxone. In each case, the victims were found unresponsive with agonal breathing. Each of these first responders effectively administered nasal naloxone to a victim to save their lives. Together, these first responders saved 10 lives from the overdose in 2020. For their exceptional and outstanding efforts, these team members are all awarded the Life-Saving Award. Civilian citation, Kenneth Frazier. On the afternoon of November 29th, 2020, the Novi Fire Department received the report of an oven fire at 20845 West Glenhaven Circle. Kenneth Frazier was at home in his condominium when he heard the smoke alarm sounding in his neighbor's condominium. Knowing that his neighbor Nancy had been in fragile health due to cancer, immediately Kenneth called 911 from his cell phone. Sensing that something was wrong, Kenneth quickly ran over to the front door of Nancy's condominium. Hearing the smoke alarm sounding, Kenneth began pounding on the door. Not hearing Nancy inside, Kenneth opened the door, discovered smoke throughout the entire condominium. Realizing the smoke was coming from the kitchen area, he made his way through the smoke and discovered a pan on the stove with flames reaching into the air. Kenneth attempted to turn off the burner to the stove, but quickly discovered that due to the intense heat, it had already melted the control knob. He quickly grabbed the flaming pan and removed it from the stove. Kenneth's action greatly improved the situation by extinguishing the flames. Kenneth then turned his attention to Nancy's safety by escorting her outside of the smoke-filled condominium. Still worried about Nancy, Kenneth remained by her side until help arrived from the Novi Fire Department. Most people would have dropped their phones during all the commotion, but Kenneth, he did all this while remaining on the phone with the Novi 911 communication dispatchers. Fire units responding received up-to-date information the entire time they were responding. As the first engine arrived on scene, Kenneth gave them a detailed account of what had transpired, and that was that the fire was no longer a threat. For Kenneth's quick action and for what could have been a catastrophic event was merely reduced to a limited amount of residual smoke inside the condominium. And for putting his neighbor's health and safety above his own, we honor Kenneth Frazier with a Civilian Citation Award. Unit Citation, Lieutenant Josh Bunsey, Lieutenant Matt Tenard, Firefighter Tabitha Tahiro, Firefighter Nathan Brogan. On January 19th, 2020, the Novi Fire Department responded to a report of a vehicle fire at 42300 11 Mile Road. Unfortunately, only part of the dispatch information was true. Engine 1 responded with a crew consisting of Lieutenant Matt Tenard, firefighters Tabitha Tahiro, and Nathan Brogan, along with Lieutenants Josh Bunsey, who was the incident commander for the shift. Upon arrival, Lieutenant Bunsey discovered a pickup truck with a salt spreader that was on fire inside the building. Lieutenant Bunsey upgraded the call to a structure fire rather than just a vehicle fire. Engine 1 arrived and Lieutenant Bunsey quickly helped deploy the engine three-quarter attack line stored in the front bumper of the engine to begin extinguishing the fire while the engine crew grabbed their gear and tools. A second hose was deployed by the engine crew using foam, which came at the right time as the flames from the fire were beginning to impinge on the ceiling trusses to the building. Engine 1's crew was able to knock down the flames. The foam that they were deploying also began to extinguish the burning gasoline from the ruptured fuel tanks, which were beginning to spread along the building's floor. Engine 1's crew was able to contain the fire and control water flow until additional units arrived and secured a water supply with the large diameter hose from the fire hydrant. An additional hose was deployed to continue to address smoldering debris and to cool the metal roof and walls. This effectively extinguished the fire. Considering the volume of fire that was occurring within the building, no further damage was sustained, and the building was able to remain open. It was all due to the quick actions of Lieutenant Bunsey and the Engine 1's crew. For exceptional and outstanding efforts, we recognize all these team members with a unit citation. Unit citation: Fire Protection Officer David Picknick, Fire Protection Officer Connor Johnson, Fire Protection Officer Scott Perry, Fire Protection Officer Dan Schulke, Captain Todd Saug. Merit citation: Lieutenant Maria Reisner, Captain Mark Tyson. On the afternoon of February 7th, 2020, Novi Fire Squad 1 responded to a medical at 43200 Crescent Boulevard for a worker having a seizure. Squad 1's crew was staffed with Fire Protection Officers David Picknick and Connor Johnson, and they arrived to find a female lying on the ground in the kitchen area in the restaurant. The employee suffers from seizures and today was experiencing one while at work. As Squad 1 was alerting the crew that there was an unsafe atmospheric condition present, they assisted with loading the patient into the squad and getting into the back of the ambulance before turning their attention to the atmosphere inside the restaurant. Fire Protection's officers, Picknick and Johnson, quickly grabbed their 4-gas atmospheric detector from Squad 1 and went back to further investigate and check why their carbon monoxide detector had alerted while treating the patient. The crew checked with staff and no one was complaining of any symptoms associated with the carbon monoxide poisoning. The problem with carbon monoxide is it's a colorless, tasteless, and odorless. Wanting to ensure the safety of the patrons of the restaurant, Squad 1's crew continued to search with the 4-gas detector for a problem. Due to the complexity of the situation, Squad 1 contacted Novi 911 Communications Dispatch to send additional resources. Squad 1's crew continued to evacuate the business while Engine 1 arrived with Fire Protection Officers Scott Perry and Dan Schulke, along with Captains Todd Saug. Squad 1's crew quickly updated Engine 1 and Captain Saug of what had occurred in the current situation. Familiar with the business and what might be the problem, Fire Protection Officers Perry and Schulke laddered the roof and began checking the rooftop heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Captain Saug walked with Squad 1's crew to help identify and isolate and determine the exact cause of the carbon monoxide leak from the interior, but all indications were pointing to one of the rooftop HVAC units. Fire Protection Officers Perry and Schulke were able to identify and isolate the unit where the exact leak was coming from due to the amount of carbon monoxide they were detecting. The unit was emitting 340 parts per million. To put it in perspective, the detector in your home alerts at 35 parts per million, warning you that there's a problem and that you need to immediately evacuate. This was exactly what occurred when the fire department team detected a problem with the patrons and the staff at this restaurant. So, here's the rest of the story. The Novi Fire Department is always ensuring the safety of our personnel and community we serve. Several neighboring fire departments had previously experienced similar situations with carbon monoxide. In one incident, 2 firefighters and a patient of what was thought to be a routine medical call were overcome by CO poisoning. The solution was to attach a CO monitor to their medical bag. Lieutenants Maria Reisner and Captain Mark Tyson, having knowledge of these neighboring incidents, proposed the concept to also attach CO detectors to all of Novi Fire Department's medical bags. These are small detectors and are constantly on and checking the surrounding atmosphere in the environment for carbon monoxide. not only for the safety of the rescuers, but also for the public. Both officers have extensive background in hazardous materials and spend numerous hours researching and testing detectors that would protect the men and women of the Novi Fire Departments. This was one call alone, their persistence paid off. Had it not been for Captain Tyson and Lieutenant Reisner bringing forth the concept and implementing the use of detectors, we may have had more of a tragic outcome. For exceptional and outstanding efforts, we recognize all these team members with a unit citation, and Lieutenants Maria Reisner and Captain Mark Tyson with a merit citation. Unit citation: Lieutenant Lawrence Reisner, Lieutenant Matt Tenard, Firefighter Eric Luong, Firefighter Eric Skalski, Firefighter Jose Villanueva, Firefighter Victor Cox. At 4:15 on the morning of October 18th, 2020, the Novi Fire Department was called to respond to a reported structure fire at 47480 Cheltenham. While responding, emergency dispatchers advised that the residents had safely exited the home, but smoke and flames were still visible from around the chimney and above the garage. Units began arriving and setting up for an aggressive interior fire attack. Ladder 1's crew arrived, and firefighters Eric Luong, Eric Skalski, and shortly behind them, Engine 1's crew, firefighters Jose Villanueva and Victor Cox, and Lieutenants Reisner and Tenard. The fire was being attacked from the exterior by an additional crew operating at the fire, but due to the massive size of the home, crews needed to advance hose lines up through the house and into the second floor to attack the fire. If they could accomplish this quickly, it would mean the difference between saving and losing the home. Fire hoses were stretched from the front door of the home, and the order was given to advance into the structure. Coordinating multiple fire hoses up flights of steps and over obstacles is no easy feat. This was not straight shot due to the outlay of the home. Once the crews were up on the second floor, they needed to gain access to the attic space. With no access hatch available, crews quickly began using their hand tools to open the ceiling and began spraying water. This dampened down the flames enough for both crews to climb up into the space and extinguish the remaining burning materials. If these crews had not worked quickly and in unison together, the outcome may have been very different. All of these personnel were instrumental in limiting the damage to this large home from what was a serious situation, but was quickly resolved by the expedient actions to extinguish the fire. For their exceptional, outstanding efforts, we recognized all these team members with a unit citation.
Good evening. Life-Saving Award. Paid on-call firefighter Jose Villanueva, auxiliary firefighter Nathan Ryan, auxiliary firefighter Brandon Ratz, dispatcher Karen Asaf, dispatcher Laura Gutierrez, paramedic Kristen Thompson, and paramedic Kelly Andorsma. On the evening of February 26, 2020, Novi Fire emergency dispatcher Karen Asaf received a 911 call from a cell phone. The male caller on the line was having difficulty speaking. Unable to make out the words, the only discernible sound was that of gurgling. Dispatcher Laura Gutierrez, also in dispatch, listened intently and began alerting fire and EMS crews of a possible emergency. Due to the caller's inability to speak, it was difficult for Karen to ascertain what or where the emergency was located. Karen could faintly make out the words 9 Mile and back door. Dispatchers Asaf and Gutierrez began to identify where the cell phone signal was coming from, as well as if it was remaining in the same location. Dispatcher Asaf remained on the phone with the caller, while Dispatcher Gutierrez updated responding fire and EMS units. Engine 3's crew of paid-on-call firefighter Jose Villanueva and auxiliary firefighters Nathan Ryan and Brandon Ratz arrived on scene and began assessing the patient. Shortly after, paramedics Kristen Thompson and Kellyanne Dorsma arrived on scene. You see, the patient had been working alone in the garage after hours and was attempting to repair a damaged trailer using an electric grinder. While using the cutting tool, the grinder kicked back and cut the gentleman in the throat. This is why the patient was unable to speak with the 911 dispatchers. Quickly, the patient was assessed and the bleeding in the neck controlled, keeping his airway clear from blood. The patient was quickly transported to Ascension Providence Hospital, Novi campus, where he was taken into surgery to repair the damage to his trachea. The emergency room physician that evening informed crews the patient was lucky to be alive, and the next 48 hours would be crucial regarding his outcome. Patient did recover, and other than some issues with speech, is grateful to dispatchers, firefighters, and paramedics for saving his life. For your perseverance and determination, please join me in recognizing each of these members with a life-saving award. Life-saving, Fire Protection Officer Scott Perry, Fire Protection Officer Dan Schulke, Fire Protection Officer Michael Orlando, Paramedic Ian Grant, and Paramedic Terrell Long. On the afternoon of December 17th, Engine 1 was toned out for routine medical behind an address on Ingersoll Drive. The call was reported as a semi-truck driver who had fallen and was bleeding from the nose. Engine 1's crew of Fire Protection Officer Scott Perry, Dan Schulke, and Michael Orlando were returning back to quarters from an accident when this call came in. Engine 1 was on scene within a minute of the tone out. Upon their arrival, they discovered a male lying on the pavement with a bloody nose, but he was not moving. As Fire Protection Officer Schulke began to approach the patient, he noticed that the man was not breathing. Immediately, Fire Protection Officer Schulke and Orlando checked for a pulse, but could not detect one. Instantly, they connected the automatic external defibrillator, or AED, to the patient's chest. The device signaled that a shock was necessary. 1 dose of electric current was delivered to the patient's heart. Immediately, chest compressions and breathing for the patient resumed. Fire Protection Officer Perry alerted dispatch and the responding units that CPR was in progress. Superior Ambulance just then arrived with paramedics Terrell Long and Ian Grant. Paramedic Long attached his monitor while Paramedic Grant obtained intravenous access. After 1 full cycle of compressions and breaths, the AED signaled that another shock was necessary. The second shock was delivered. Suddenly, the patient developed a weak pulse on the cardiac monitor, and it looked as if the patient was attempting to take a breath. Everyone assisted with lifting the patient from the ground, placing him on the stretcher, and loading him into the ambulance. During transport, the patient began to breathe on his own, and by the time they arrived at Ascension Providence Hospital Novi campus, the patient was sitting up and talking. Remaining in the hospital for a few days, the patient was finally released. If not for the quick actions of all these members, the outcome may have been very different. We honor all of you for your quick actions and persistence by awarding you the Life-Saving Award. Life-Saving, Fire Protection Officer Andrew Copeland, Fire Protection Officer Bashara Takla, Paramedic Jeremy Beatty, Emergency Medical Technician Tricia Anderson, and Superior Ambulance Dispatcher Amy Felder. On the afternoon of November 6, 2020, the Novi Fire Department responded to a report of an unresponsive male in the bathroom at a home in the city of Novi. Rescue 3's crew of Fire Protection Officers Andrew Copeland and Bashar Takla responded along with paramedic Jeremy Beatty and Emergency Medical Technician Tricia Anderson. While units were responding, Superior Ambulance Dispatcher Amy Fielder was giving step-by-step cardiopulmonary resuscitation, or CPR, instructions to the patient's daughter, knowing that every minute that passes lessens the chance of survival. Both units arrived together and discovered a male pulseless and not breathing on the bathroom floor with CPR being performed. The daughter continued to follow dispatcher Fielder's directions, allowing crews the opportunity to set up equipment to take over. The bathroom was very small and extremely difficult for fire crews to be able to treat the patient. Fire Protection Officer Andy Copeland and Paramedic Beatty were able to move the patient to the adjacent kitchen, allowing crews the necessary space to perform effective CPR. Fire Protection Officer Copeland and Takla took over performing chest compressions and breathing for the patient, all while Paramedic Beatty and EMT Anderson attached a cardiac monitor to the patient and administered intravenous line, or an IV, allowing for cardiac medications to be administered. After the first round of compressions, Paramedic Beatty advised everyone that a shock was necessary, so a dose of electric current was delivered to the patient's heart. Immediately, compressions and rescue breathing resumed. Suddenly, paramedic Beatty noticed a cardiac activity on the monitor and asked for a momentary stop of the compressions. He found a faint heartbeat on the monitor. The patient was placed on a stretcher and loaded into the ambulance and transported to the hospital. It was evident that the closer the ambulance was to Ascension Providence Hospital Novi campus, the stronger the patient's pulse became. The patient remained in the hospital for a few weeks and made a full recovery. For their perseverance and determination, we honor all of you with a life-saving award. Letter of commendation, paid on-call firefighter Troy Rassicott. On the evening of Saturday, September 19th, Fire Station 2 was toned out for a mountain biker who fell and experienced a dislocated shoulder while riding the trails at Lakeshore Park. The sun was beginning to set, and it was determined very quickly that the Novi Fire Department's Utility Terrain Vehicle, or UTV, would be necessary. The incident commander requested dispatch to tone out Station 2 to deployment of the UTV. Paid-on-call firefighter Troy Rassicott quickly took action to respond with the UTV. When firefighter Rassicott arrived, the incident commander provided him with updated information that the caller was relaying to Novi dispatchers. Firefighter Rassicott, familiar with the trails and terrain of Lakeshore Park, was able to identify the patient's location with only a brief description. Firefighter Rassicott was sent out in the UTV along with equipment and a Superior Ambulance paramedic to locate the patient. Squad 2's crew had already been sent out ahead on foot, accompanied by the patient's mother. Firefighter Rassicott was able to quickly locate the injured biker, assess his injuries, and transport him back to an awaiting ambulance. For Firefighter Rassicott's unwavering determination and knowledge of the trails, we award him a letter of commendation.
Advanced Education, Sergeant Adam Elson, Sergeant Christy Grunwald. The Novi Police and Fire Department take great pride in our team members committing to being lifelong learners. 54% of the command staff at the Police and Fire Department have earned an advanced degree, while others are currently pursuing degrees. In December of 2020, Sergeant Christy Grunwald and Sergeant Adam Elson each earned their Masters of Technology Studies degree with an emphasis on Homeland Security from Eastern Michigan University. Please join me in recognizing each of them with the Advanced Degree Award. Staff and Command, Sergeant Christy Grunwald. Each year, Eastern Michigan University holds the School of Police Staff and Command Executive Leadership Program and the School of Fire Staff and Command Executive Leadership Program. Both schools are 1 week a month for 9 months. Each school is an executive leadership program providing upper-level academic instruction in a total of 5 core or mandatory blocks of instruction and utilizes over 30 additional optional blocks of instruction each session. Major topics of study include leadership development, planning and decision-making, human resource management, administration of the police agency, and the critical incidents we're facing in Homeland Security. In 2020, Sergeant Grunwald joined 33 law enforcement professionals representing 25 different communities in successfully completing the 36th session of the School of Police Staff and Command Executive Leadership Program. Please join me in recognizing Sergeant Christy Grunwald with the Staff and Command Award. 2020 Firefighter of the Year, Lieutenant Maria Reisner. Lieutenant Maria Reisner was sworn into the Novi Fire Department in January 1997 as a paid-on-call firefighter. She quickly developed a knack for the position. Determined to absorb as much knowledge as possible is a good fault of Maria's. Her commitment to helping others began back in high school when Maria signed up to be a lifeguard. This need to help others has been emulated throughout her life. Most parents want to determine your career path for you, but Maria's parents instilled in her, go where your interest takes you. Her purpose was that of service to the country and our community. Shortly after high school, Lieutenant Reisner found herself wanting to help the citizens of our nation by dedicating the next 4 years of her life serving in the United States Navy. After her honorable discharge from military service, Maria took a position with the Troy Police Department as a police service aide. Combined with her military background, this was a perfect fit for her. Her time as a police service aide was split between dispatching police and fire resources, as well as the care of prisoners within their jail. It was during this time that Maria decided to seize the opportunity to help protect the residents of Novi. Obtaining her Firefighter 1 and 2 certifications, Hazmat Material Operations certification, and Basic Emergency Medical Technician license through the Novi Fire Department. This position gave her more solid purpose in life. Year after year, Lieutenant Reisner has volunteered at numerous events throughout Novi and our surrounding communities. Events such as the Novi Police and Fire Benevolent Golf Outing, hockey game, the Addicted to Movies Not Drugs, the Michigan State Fair, and the Northville City Founders Festival are just to name a few. Lieutenant Reisner has received numerous life-saving awards during her time on the department, and this shows the pride that she has in protecting the residents of our great city. When Maria was asked back in 2012 during her interview for the hazmat team, "Why you?" her reply was, "Because I'm not just doing this to take up a spot. I will excel at this." And Lieutenant Reisner has obtained Hazardous Materials Specialist certification and numerous other hazardous materials certification, showing her commitment at excelling. Lieutenant Reisner was the right choice for the team, and 7 years later, you cannot keep her away from the Western Wayne Hazardous Materials team. Maria's areas of specialty include emergency involving trains, highway cargo vehicles, flammable liquids, explosive devices, and radiological emergencies. She and her fellow team members are on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to handle a variety of emergencies that local departments would not otherwise have the equipment or training to handle. As a tank car specialist, Lieutenant Reisner gets a sense of pride due to her great-grandfather working for the railroads decades ago. Recently, standing upon a rail car at one of her trainings, she felt that he was a part of her, and it made her feel right to be there. This provides additional purpose for what she's doing. As a consummate professional, Lieutenant Reisner spent as much time researching and educating herself. This information is not wasted. She spends as much time as she can educating other firefighters, either on the department or in the academies, sharing the knowledge she has with others. A true example of a leader. Maria also assists with recommendations for updating department policies and procedures while serving on the department's safety committee. Since her promotion in 2017, Lieutenant Reisner's focus and energy has been looking forward to the future of our department. She has worked with countless probationary members to provide opportunities for them to grow and gain confidence in the necessary skills as a firefighter. Maria fosters a positive learning environment that provides firsthand knowledge from her own experiences. Assisting with the Fire Academy and leading recruits from surrounding departments, she does this through practical evolutions in preparations for the state exams. When you ask her fellow coworkers to describe Maria, you consistently hear dedicated, respectful, enthusiastic, positive, dependable, caring, skillful, and modest. Maria has also devoted her own time to improve the quality of life for those in the community by participating in the annual Shop with a Hero event, Addicted to Movies Not Drugs, and Novi's Goodfellows events. Lieutenant Reisner has earned the respect of the members of the fire department and the community she serves. While she has confidence in the job she performs, she values the experience and input of others. Maria is an incredibly dedicated and dependable employee, showing her commitment at all hours of the day and night, responding to calls for service. In her spare time, she makes wallets, bags, and many other usable items out of old firefighter turnout gear to help show her pride. By repurposing this gear, she is saving it from becoming trash. And by putting Maria's own personal touch on each of them, you can see how dedicated she is to the profession. For all of her accomplishments, it is my great honor and privilege to recognize Lieutenant Maria Reisner as our 2020 Novi Fire Department Firefighter of the Year and thank her for continued dedication to the safety of our community. Lee C. BeGole, Police Officer of the Year, Detective Jeff Brown. Detective Jeff Brown's law enforcement career began with the Detroit Police Department before he joined the Novi Police Department in September 1998. He was an established police officer when he began his career, and his talents were immediately recognized. Jeff's coworkers and supervisors knew very early on that he was going to be a valued and respected Novi police officer. Just after 2 years of service, Detective Brown was assigned to the K-9 unit, and for 7 years, he and his K-9 partner, Yukon, served the Novi community and, when called upon, our surrounding jurisdictions. One of Yukon's more significant cases took place in 2006 when he successfully tracked a suspect who feloniously assaulted a police officer, stole a vehicle, and fled. During their service together, Detective Brown and Yukon were part of the team of investigators recovering $3.4 million from a local hotel, which has led to the largest narcotics investigation in the Detroit metro area, known as Operation Falling Star. An investigation under a partnership between the Novi Police Department, the Drug Enforcement Administration, and the Internal Revenue Service. This large-scale drug trafficking organization investigation spanned from Mexico all the way to Detroit and back. And in the end, investigators committed over 11,000 hours of work, resulting in the dismantling of a major international drug cartel with 36 arrests, the seizure of more than 25 tons of marijuana, and the seizure of more than $15 million in U.S. currency. As a canine handler, Detective Brown and Yukon were recognized 7 different times for outstanding service from surrounding organizations. Yukon retired from police service in 2007, and then Detective Brown moved on to his next assignment in 2009 as a task force officer with the Drug Enforcement Administration. Detective Brown spent the next 4 years investigating large-scale drug trafficking cases spanning across the United States and beyond. One of the more significant cases he worked was a narcotics seizure with the Oakland County Sheriff's Office, including 69 kilograms of heroin, 10.5 pounds of cocaine valued at more than $150 million, and the seizure of $500,000 in drug-related proceeds. During his 3-year tour as a task force officer with the DEA, Detective Brown's work was exemplary, representing the city of Novi professionally in everything he did, earning him a 1-year extension in this assignment and a second Individual Achievement Award in 2013. His talents did not go unnoticed. He was assigned to the support service section as a detective shortly after completing his assignment as a task force officer. Detective Brown proved himself to be independent, professional, and a trusted investigator. In 2019, the Novi Police Department joined the FBI's Oakland County Gang and Violent Crime Task Force. The FBI was seeking to have a member of the Novi Police Department join their team. There was no doubt about who that would be, and Detective Jeff Brown was our selection. Detective Brown's work ethic has been noticed by his supervisory special agent, who said this of his work. Task Force Officer Jeff Brown has demonstrated his innate ability at investigating complex cases. In his short time on the task force, he has shown to be a leader and one who is routinely asked to provide guidance on investigative strategy. A task force officer is a highly sought-after position. It's only given to those who exhibit professionalism, independence, and a proven record of working hard and who are committed to the organization. Detective Brown is one of 2 members of our department to be a task force officer in 2 separate assignments. Since Detective Jeff Brown joined the task force in January of 2019, he has been part of numerous high-profile investigations throughout Oakland County and Novi. When Detective Brown is involved in a case, it is likely that there will be an arrest. His first case investigated a fast food robbery crew responsible for armed robberies in Milford, Livonia, Farmington Hills, Auburn Hills, Dearborn Heights, and Redford. 2 arrests were made. The juvenile suspect pled guilty while the adult suspect awaits trial. 2 arrests were made after Detective Brown was assigned to a carjacking case at a hotel in Madison Heights. In this case, the victim was stabbed multiple times. This suspect is currently serving a 10 to 40-year prison sentence in our state prison system. Detective Brown was brought into a Novi investigation after a drive-by shooting left 1 shot and another hospitalized. 1 arrest was made shortly thereafter, and that suspect remains in the Oakland County Jail awaiting trial. Detective Brown's team with the FBI Oakland County Gang and Violent Crime Task Force was vital to a homicide investigation. They worked in White Lake Township, where the victim was burned alive. As a result of their efforts, they located and arrested the suspect, and he too is currently awaiting trial in Oakland County Jail. Detective Brown's team was called in to assist with locating and arresting a suspect who shot a round into the wall of a hotel near the Clerk to obtain money in Auburn Hills. That suspect was quickly arrested and has been sentenced to 10 to 20 years in federal prison. On August 29, 2020, a suspect attempted an armed robbery at Tapper's Jewelry here in Novi. On September 1, 2020, the same suspect committed an armed robbery in Milford. Detective Brown was involved in the investigation and played an integral role in locating the suspect and placing him at the scene of both crimes. A subsequent search warrant was executed at the suspect's home, and he was arrested. And during the execution of the warrant, several weapons were located, along with several high-value pieces of lawn equipment that were turned out to be stolen out of the city of South Lyon. This suspect is currently being held in the Oakland County Jail, awaiting trial. While Detective Brown serves as a task force officer outside of Novi, his commitment to our community and department continues to shine through. He's aware of the needs of our department and community and makes Novi his primary responsibility without fail. Detective Brown is also a firearms instructor, and he regularly changes his schedule to help with firearms qualifications and annual inspections. He is one of the most decorated members of the Novi Police Department, holding 2 department citations, 9 merit citations, 24 unit citation, 9 letters of commendation, Employee of the Month, and a record of perfect attendance. He has been recognized by other police agencies 10 times. When Detective Brown isn't fulfilling his commitment to our community, he enjoys family vacations, snowmobiling, hunting, and spending time with his 2 lovely children, Colin and Kayla. It is my honor to recognize Detective Jeff Brown as the 2020 Lee C. BeGole Officer of the Year. Civilian Employee of the Year, Administrative Assistant Renee Landis. Renee Landis joined the Novi Police Department in September 2011 as our administrative assistant. She works directly with the Public Safety Executive Team, and she's solely responsible for maintaining the executive team schedules, and she is the first point of contact for anyone calling police and fire executive offices. Renee single-handedly maintains a professionally organized office environment at all times. She's at the center of processing all staff and training records for the police department. She also assists the fire department record keeping, and this last year was responsible for uploading all Novi Fire Department emergency contact forms into our internal computer database. Last year, Renee processed 123 training orders for the police department, resulting in over 11,341 training hours for our men and women. For those training requests, Renee completes registration and all travel arrangements for our team members. She's also responsible to track those training hours and certificates in our internal computer databases and works closely with our student co-op to ensure these records are accurately recorded. Renee also assists with our accreditation process by auditing all administrative files to ensure national and local best practices. This past year has seen many changes due to the pandemic, and Renee was instrumental in helping the police department navigate through those changes through the constant changing in executive orders, Oakland County Health Department orders, and the Michigan Department of Health and Human Service orders. She was the first point of contact for calls to the Director of Public Safety's office on guidance and recommendations, offering assistance to our local business owners and residents during this pandemic. If the pandemic has taught us one thing, preparedness is one of the most important projects Renee's made sure she had in place, and this was creating a systematic approach for professional onboarding of newly hired employees. Part of the onboarding process was continuing a long-standing relationship between the Public Safety Department, Human Resources, and Ascension Providence Corporate Health Center. Renee was passionate about creating an atmosphere of professionalism, making the newly hired employees feel cared for and welcomed. As part of the new employee onboarding, Renee works tirelessly with the Michigan Commission on Law Enforcement Standards to ensure that our newly hired officers meet all the required elements as part of their licensing. She also developed a backup position for onboarding in the event an additional team member was needed to assist. This annual Police and Fire Awards ceremony would not be possible without her. She's responsible for creating the award certificates, ordering the Employees of the Year crystals, listing honored guests, and coordinating a multitude of other behind-the-scenes detail. Her volunteer spirit shines through each holiday season as she oversees the Adopt a Family program. She coordinates this event each year, identifying less fortunate families in our community and their needs. Renee coordinates volunteers from our team to do the shopping, and the event culminates each year with a giant wrapping party before the gifts are given out to the families. She recognizes the importance of partnerships and relationships and works with local businesses to further enhance the public-private partnership of our team. Much of what Renee does for the Adopt a Family is done on her own time, and in the past 9 years, she's helped over 36 Novi families realize a joyous holiday season they may not otherwise have known. Renee Landis' volunteer spirit does not stop with the Adopt a Family. She regularly volunteers every year at the Novi Police and Fire Benevolent Golf Classic. She is truly the fabric that holds the public safety executive team together. She keeps the team on track, organized, and is responsible for the professional environment we have become known for. When Renee is not hard at work at volunteering her time, she enjoys shopping, yoga, walking, and spending time with her 3 beautiful children, Olivia, Nolan, and Conrad. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to recognize Renee Landis as the 2020 Civilian Employee of the Year. Volunteer of the Year, Mr. Bill Charles. Bill Charles is a Vietnam-era veteran of the United States Air Force. He was stationed at Travis Air Force Base in Northern California and Elmendorf Air Force Base outside of Anchorage, Alaska, where he spent a 3-year tour. Bill Charles was awarded the Air Force Commendation Medal for actions that directly supported the conflict in Vietnam. While serving in the Air Force, he pursued a college education in history with a minor in sociology. After being honorably discharged in 1973, Bill attended the University of Detroit Mercy, where he completed his coursework in history. He then transferred to Madonna College in Livonia to study criminal justice. He completed his coursework in 1978 and received 2 Bachelor of Science degrees, one in history and the second in criminal justice. After 2 years with the Southfield Police Department, Bill joined the Novi Police Department in 1976, where he was assigned to the Patrol Division. Bill reestablished the Novi Police Department's crime prevention program. He also worked with the neighborhood associations and started Neighborhood Watch. As part of this project, he was the first to bring back McGruff, Take a Bite Out of Crime, to Michigan and the Novi Police Department. Bill received the support of the chief at the time, Chief BeGole, and the City Council to write a grant for this program, which is accepted and funded by the United States Attorney General's Office, and included dollars for advertising materials and a McGruff costume to match the National Advertising Initiative. This grant supported the Novi Crime Prevention Program. Another highlight of Bill's career as a police officer was involving a kidnapping murder of a German foreign exchange student who went missing from Novi, with his body being discovered in a park in Washtenaw County over a week later. The case was almost 9 months old when Bill developed an informant that led to the arrest of 2 suspects from Novi who committed the crime and resulted in their convictions. Bill Charles was named Police Officer of the Year in 1982, a singular achievement he's still very proud of. While serving as a Novi Police Department, Bill was a member of the United States Air Force Auxiliary, Civil Air Patrol. He took the training courses and other work to be certified in emergency service to include search and rescue and disaster relief. He eventually became a ground operations director and assistant air branch director. In 1991, Bill graduated from the Air Force Coast Guard Search and Rescue Manager's Incident Commander's course and completed the requirements to be certified as an inland search and rescue and disaster relief incident commander. He took part in hundreds of missions to include disaster relief and search and rescue. He also held many command positions within Michigan Wing Civil Air Patrol. In addition, he served as the director of the Great Lakes Region Staff College for 4 years. He also graduated from the Civil Air Patrol National Staff College conducted at Maxwell Air Force Base, the home of the Air Force officer training. On August 30th, 1991, Bill completed all the senior member officer training programs and received the Gil Robb Wilson Award number 1323. The number 1323 indicated that out of all the officers in the Air Force Auxiliary, he was only one of the 1,323 officers to complete the entire training program. In March of 1995, Bill was promoted to the rank of colonel and was assigned as the commander of Michigan Wing, where he served until March of 1999. As commander of Michigan Wing, he was responsible for 1,800 members, 7 aircraft, and 25 ground vehicles. He was also responsible for all search and rescue and disaster relief assigned to the wing. From March of 1999 to March of 2003, Colonel Charles served as the commander of the Great Lakes region, which included 6 wings in 6 states, just over 8,000 members, a fleet of 50 aircraft, and over 100 ground vehicles. He held final responsibility for the safety of all operations and supervised search and rescue and disaster relief operations in the 6 states. As a result of some major disasters within the region, Colonel Charles introduced and helped develop the critical incident stress management for the entire Civil Air Patrol. In addition, he worked with the Air Force medical staff and wrote the regulation for critical incident stress management that is still in place today. He was also responsible for the safety and training of the few thousand cadets aged 12 to 20 in the region and of all members in the 6 states, Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, Illinois, and Wisconsin. From March 2003 to August 2006, he served as the Inspector General for the Air Force Auxiliary. During this period, Colonel Charles investigated one of the largest fraud cases in the history of the Auxiliary, and this involved the embezzlement of over $500,000 and resulted in the conviction of an employee of the organization. As a result of this incident, Colonel Charles worked with the Board of Governors Audit Committee, the Chief Financial Officer, and the others to revamp the entire financial management program of the Civil Air Patrol. This resulted in the Air Patrol receiving an unheard-of qualified audit for a nonprofit of its size and led to the organization receiving many accolades. Colonel Charles went on to serve in other national-level leadership positions to include National Comptroller. Along with his numerous awards, he holds 5 Distinguished Service Medals, the highest award other than life-saving within the Air Force Auxiliary. On December 9, 2003, Bill completed the Community Emergency Response Team Training, or CERT, Train the Trainer course through the Oakland Community College. When the city of Novi started its first CERT program in 2005, we turned to Bill for his guidance. He has been involved in every class since 2005 and has trained more than 300 citizens in the Community Response Team CERT program. Bill has helped develop the national training schedule so Novi could include animals in disaster and CPR into the basic course. He's taken many other courses to help improve his knowledge in emergency services and CERT to include advanced CERT courses, FEMA courses, the full series of incident command courses, and the National Basic and Advanced Disaster Medical class sponsored by the Michigan Department of Public Health. Emergency Manager Marshall Johnson described Bill Charles as dependable, reliable, trustworthy, and committed. He can handle complex issues and make decisive decisions to keep the organization effective and serve his community with distinction. Bill Charles is often the first to volunteer for assignment, and he's committed to over 100 hours of volunteer service every year to our community since joining the team. He was recognized in 2009 with the Novi Police Department's Governmental Service Citation for all his work and dedication. Our Novi CERT team is fortunate to have the opportunity to gain knowledge and perspective from Bill. He's contributed countless hours in preparing and developing classroom activities and field exercises to prepare the CERT team for a real emergency when they are needed. Bill Charles is a true leader who never expects anything in return except the success of the Novi CERT program. The volunteer spirit runs deep in his family. Bill's wife of 32 years, Bonnie Charles, also serves on the Novi Community Response Team and a volunteer and CERT instructor. Please join me in recognizing Bill Charles as the 2020 Volunteer of the Year. As you all know, these types of ceremonies do not happen by accident. I'd like to thank all members who submitted their respective award nominations and for the work performed by our awards board team for reviewing and authorizing this deserved recognition. I'd also like to recognize and thank our administrative assistant, Renee Landis, for her hard work and countless hours spent in preparing the awards for the recipients. Thank you, Renee. In addition, I'd like to thank our community relations team of Director Cheryl Walsh-Malloy, Nathan Mueller, Josh Busher, Damon Parnell, Jeanette Handy, and Wendy Duvall. Their assistance in coordinating and executing the setup, photography, video recording, and sharing of information via social media has been invaluable to all of us. Thank you all. I'd also like to once again congratulate all citizens and department members recognized here this evening. In addition, I'd like to thank those who tuned in virtually who may have not received an award yet took the time to honor your colleagues with your time, your presence, and your support. I offer a heartfelt thank you to the family members of our firefighters, dispatchers, and police officers who stand by our team members and their loved ones day and night, not knowing if mom will return home safely or if dad may make it through his tour of duty. Your support does not go unnoticed. Thank you. You all have my highest praise and appreciation, for without you, this would not be possible. To all of our first responders and supporters here with us this evening, I say thank you for everything you do. This concludes our 2020 awards ceremony. May God bless you all.